Imagine this. Your friend shares exciting news and you smile and say that's amazing, yet you feel nothing inside about what they've told you. Someone you care about is hurting and you know you should feel something, but you're completely detached from your feelings. It's like watching the world through soundproof glass. You can see people laughing, crying, getting excited about things, but you're somehow separate from it all, going through life without actually feeling anything. If this sounds familiar, just know you're not alone because emotional numbness is far more common than most people realize, and understanding the psychology behind it might be the first step toward finding your way back to feeling again. But first, I'd like to point out that emotional numbness isn't a malfunction of your emotional system. In fact, it's actually a feature, not a bug. Your brain has a built-in circuit breaker designed to flip when the emotional current gets too intense. When you're overwhelmed by stress, trauma, or sustained emotional pain, your nervous system essentially says nope, this is too much and pulls the plug on your feelings. Psychologists call this emotional blunting or affective flattening, and it's your brain's way of protecting you from psychological overload. Think of it like your phone going into low power mode when the battery's almost dead. It's not ideal, but it keeps the system running when full functionality would cause a complete shutdown. The problem is that sometimes this circuit breaker gets stuck in the off position. What started as a temporary protective measure becomes a chronic state. You're no longer shutting down just the overwhelming emotions, you're blocking everything, including the good stuff. It's like throwing out the entire electrical panel because one fuse blew. For many people, emotional numbness starts as a survival strategy. Maybe you grew up in an environment where showing emotion was dangerous or got you punished. Maybe you experienced trauma and learned that feeling anything about it was too painful. Maybe you've been disappointed or hurt so many times that your brain decided it was safer to just stop expecting anything at all. In the beginning, this emotional armor feels like protection. And honestly, sometimes it is. There's a reason people develop these defenses. They work, at least temporarily. Numbness can get you through impossibly difficult situations. It can help you function when falling apart isn't an option. The problem is that armor designed for a battlefield doesn't work so well in peacetime. When you get so used to wearing this emotional protection, you can forget you're wearing it at all, and it becomes your default state. You're not actively suppressing your emotions anymore, instead you lose access to them entirely. It becomes like a muscle you haven't used in so long that you've forgotten how to flex it. One of the strangest aspects of emotional numbness is that it doesn't necessarily affect your ability to intellectually understand emotions. You can watch a sad movie and recognize, on a cognitive level, that it's sad. You might even be able to predict that you should cry at certain scenes. But the actual feeling of sadness never arrives. This creates a bizarre double consciousness where you're simultaneously aware of what you should be feeling and acutely aware that you're not feeling it. It's like being a spectator in your own life, watching your story unfold but not really being in it. You go to parties and laugh at jokes, but it feels performative. You tell people you're excited about things because you know that's the appropriate response, not because you actually feel excitement. This intellectual emotional disconnect can make you feel like an imposter in your own life. You're playing the role of yourself, hitting all the right marks, saying all the right things, but there's no genuine emotion animating any of it. Emotional numbness doesn't just affect your feelings, it messes with everything. Your relationships start to feel hollow because connection requires emotional availability, and you're running on empty. Friends and family might accuse you of being cold or distant, which stings even more because you're not trying to be that way. You just literally don't have access to the warmth they're asking for. Decision-making becomes weirdly difficult too. We like to think we make decisions rationally, but emotions are actually crucial for motivation and choice. When you're emotionally numb, even simple decisions feel overwhelming because nothing feels more right or wrong than anything else. Should you take that job? Move to that city? End that relationship? Without emotional input, your brain struggles to assign value to any option. There's also a strange relationship between emotional numbness and depression that people don't always recognize. Sometimes numbness is a symptom of depression. Sometimes it's a defense against depression. And sometimes it's both at once. You're numb because you're depressed, and you're more depressed because you're numb. It's a feedback loop that can be hard to escape without help. However, emotional numbness isn't just psychological, it's physiological. Your emotions don't live in some abstract mental realm, they're embodied experiences that involve your entire nervous system. When you shut down emotionally, you're often shutting down physically too. People experiencing emotional numbness frequently report feeling disconnected from their bodies. Physical sensations become muted. You might not notice when you're hungry, tired, or in pain. Some people describe it as feeling like they're floating slightly outside their body, observing everything from a distance. This dissociation between mind and body reinforces the emotional numbness, creating another feedback loop. And since your body is also where emotions live before you're consciously aware of them, you lose access to valuable information about how you're actually doing when you learn to ignore or suppress bodily signals. In essence, you become a stranger to yourself in the most fundamental way. The good news is that emotional numbness isn't necessarily permanent. Your feelings aren't gone, they're just buried. Think of them as being frozen rather than dead. And although the thawing process isn't quick or comfortable, it is possible. The first step is usually just acknowledging that you're numb and that this isn't how you want to live. That might sound obvious, but many people get so used to emotional numbness that they convince themselves it's just who they are now. Recognizing it as a state rather than a trait creates possibility for change. From there, the path forward often involves professional help. Therapy, in particular, approaches that focus on reconnecting with emotions and bodily sensations, and can be incredibly effective. Sometimes it involves gradually exposing yourself to manageable levels of emotion and learning that feeling things won't destroy you. Other times it might mean addressing underlying trauma or depression that's keeping the circuit breaker stuck. The journey back to feeling isn't linear, and it's not always pleasant. When emotions start returning, they don't come back neatly organized and manageable. You might feel everything at once, or cry at random moments, or get angry about things that happened years ago. It can be messy and uncomfortable and scary. But here's the thing, even uncomfortable feelings are proof that you're alive, that you're human, and that you're capable of the full spectrum of experience that makes life meaningful. Emotional numbness might keep you safe, but it also keeps you small. And you deserve to take up more space in your own life than that.